Shalosh Boker or Masechet Kiddushin Daf Bet Amud Aleph 12a1. We were just mentioning, right, that if you're going to tell me now that you have to give a dinar and then you're going downwards until a pruta, right? V'hainu demigra ve'azla until a pruta. But if you're going to tell me that you're giving a pruta, right, you can't go lower than a pruta. So we said no. When it says that you're giving a dinar, you could go down until pruta. But if you give a pruta, you can't go down at all. So the Gemara starts on the top, right, of Yud Bet Amud Aleph. Lo sal kadaitach. Don't come and say, right, that you could come and you're not going to go down in any amount. Dunya de yi'ud, just like yi'ud. What does that mean? Ma yi'ud, just like by yi'ud. Remember, yi'ud is a designation. Afal gav di bayi. If right now the master wants, he could be miya'ed, he could come and designate her. Right, that's what he's saying. He's designating her in the time of her shivcha. He could designate her to become his wife. And if he wants it, he's not going to do so. When he's not going to designate her to become his wife, so therefore it's not going to be a good sale. So to here, as long as she's going to be sold, that you cannot take off from the money, right? So therefore he says, love is vina, so therefore the sale is not going to be a good sale. And therefore it says, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Amai is not going to be bought with less than a dinar, because you have to be able to take off as part of the sale. Okay? So that's what we're saying. We're talking about going down below in the sale. So says the Gemara, Kiddushay Isha, according to Shita Bet Shammai, Nafka Lehu, right? He comes and he says, and therefore we're coming and we're saying that Kiddushay Isha, according to Bet Shammai, he's learning it from Amai Vriya. Just like Maha Amai Vriya, just like the Amai Vriya. Beprutalo Mekanya, you cannot come and mitkadesh with a pruta, afisha beprutalo mikadsha. So too, you cannot be mikadesh a woman, which means we're trying to say 1 second. An amai vriya, minimum is a dinar. Why? In order that after she's working, you take down, you subtract from that which she worked in order to redeem herself. Okay, but that's what you're doing. It's like a slave. A slave is coming and saying, okay, how much do I owe you? I owe you $1,000. So, okay, I'm working for you. The second that I worked 1 day, 2 days, I start deducting until finally I say, we're on a clean slate. I don't know you anything. That's it. I don't work for you anymore. Right? That's the concept. So he comes and he says, right? So if the Amai Briya is going to be minimum of dinar, so too a woman, when she gets married, it's not worse than Amai Briya. So it cannot be, it's going to be less than a dinar. Okay? So says the Gemara. Well, the Gemara says it. Yeah? So says the Gemara, Ve'ema. Why don't we just say palga de dinar ve'ema shte prutot? Why don't we just say that an ama is going to be with half of a dinar, okay? In order that you could still bring down, right, the half of a dinar. And why don't we just say, right, that it's enough to buy her with 2 prutot? Because still, when you have 2 prutot, you could still go downwards. And part of the going downwards, right, is basically that now it's going to become less. So answers the Gemara. No, there was like the different values of money, right? So therefore, once we, for example, I'll just give you an example. You have the 5 cents, right? Or for example, you have in Israel, it's much easier because in American you have a few, but the penny, the 5 cents, a dime, and then the quarter, right? And then you have the dollar. You understand? So okay, let's say we're talking about Israeli. Israeli, you have 10 agurot, 10 agurot. Chetzi shekel, 50 agurot, which is basically chetzi shekel.
There's 20 agurot, no?
No. Yeah. And then you have the shekel, right? The shekel, and then you have the shte shekel. So now like this. Says the Gemara, if I'm already coming and I'm telling you that it's not going to be the 10 agurot, I go automatically to the chetzi shekel. I'm not going to come and say, you know what? You need 2 10 agurots. No. The second that I went from the denomination of the 10, I went to the next number. I didn't say, okay, fine, but for 2. If you want to say it like the way that we are here, you have pennies. So after a penny, I'm going to go for 5. I'm not going to go for 2 pennies because you go from penny to nickel, right? A nickel, you go to a dime, right? Okay, well, 2 dimes is a nickel anyway, so it's not a good example. But for example, let's say a dime, you go to a quarter. You're not going to say it's 2 dimes, right? That means you're always just going up denomination. That's what we're trying to say. Okay?
So the euros, they have everything. They have the 1, 2.
Exactly.
20.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of coins. Okay, So that is what the Gemara came and the Gemara answered. So Rava comes and he's going to give now a fourth answer in Bet Shammai. Remember one more time, Bet Shammai was the one that they said that you needed a dinar. And we already had three different answers. Why? Whether it was that a woman will never get married for less than that, but she's going to say, well, you're going to get married with a pruta. What do you think I'm worth? And so that's what I'm worth. She'll throw you, I don't know where, you understand? That's going to be one answer, right? Then, so every single answer that we had three different answers. Now we're giving the fourth answer. So what's going to be now the fourth answer? Comes the Gemara and says, Rav Amar, Hainu Ta'ama de Bet Shammai. The reasoning of Bet Shammai is, Shelo Yiyu Benot Yisrael Kefker. Benot Yisrael should not be like Kefker. What does that mean? If you could just get a penny, imagine right now I come and I tell you, you could get married to a woman with a value of a penny. You're going to tell me, like Rabbi, like Iowa, like where are you going? And I said, like, a penny. You just crazy. If I'm going to tell you it's $100 bill, okay, makes sense. Yeah, or even a $50 bill, a bill. Yeah, okay, a penny. But that's what we're saying. We're saying a pruta. Nowadays it's like I told you, take a bisli, right, the round one. Say and you put it. You put it on the finger. Like what? Right? Or the donut. Take a donut. Take a nice donut. Right? She sticks out her finger. You put the donut right on the finger, and that's it.
Yeah, could you do that?
Huh?
Could you do that?
Well, yeah, shaveh pruta.
But it's going to turn.
Doesn't matter. Shaveh pruta.
It's going to turn bad.
Doesn't matter. Right now, it's shaveh.
She's not going to keep the ring.
What?
So she's not going to keep the ring as
keep the ring.
Huh?
If you give her the ring, she keeps the ring, and after a day, she takes the ring and she throws it in the thing. She looks. There's no coin. There's no. Remember that there's no tabat. There's no jewels. There's no even on the ring. The ring is a $100 bill or whatever. $100 ring. It's the most simplest ring that there is. Yeah, she takes a ring. She says, "What's this worthless? I can give it to my daughter." She comes in and she throws it out. There's a problem. She does whatever she wants with the ring. Yeah. So therefore, he comes and he says over here, we don't want Benot Yisrael to be Efker, and that's why, according to Shita Bet Shammai, they came and they gave them a much higher, right, denomination. Okay, 2 dots. Okay. As the Mishnah we were talking about in the 2 dots, we quote the Mishnah where the Mishnah says that a woman could get married with a peruta. Savar Rav Yosef lememar pruta koldu. So when he comes and he says a pruta, it means be'emet any matbea which is called a pruta. Right? I already explained to you the other day, if you remember, for example, a cent. There's a lot of cents. You have cents in euros. You have cents, Canadian dollar cents, even though now they're getting rid of them. Right? You have the cents, American cents. You have, and there's just common sense and doesn't make sense. Right? Some people don't have, right? So when we're talking about cents, he said any cent. Now there's going to be a big difference in the cents, because obviously 1 cent Canadian is basically worthless, right, in the value when you're comparing it even to American, right? If $100 is 140 around, 137, 137, whatever, meaning that, so imagine 1 cent is like, it's like a 60th of 1 cent, or whatever. It's not like, it's not, now, a euro cent is even higher, or it's the same or even higher than the dollar, no?
Euro is higher.
Higher than dollar, tipa.
10%, 10, 12.
Okay, yeah, a little bit more. And so he thought pruta koldum means anything which is called a pruta. Doesn't matter where it is. It's a pruta. It's called a cent. It's called a, okay. So Elmaleh Abaye comes and he tells Rav Yosef, Veha alak tani, but 1 second, I thought that the Mishnah was, Kama hi pruta, what is the value of a pruta according to Bet Hillel? Echan mi shmone b'isar ha'italki. It has to be 1/8 of isar ha'italki, which means that it has to be something which is going in the shuk, which is, why do we have to mention this thing? Because it had to be a certain amount. It cannot be nothing completely, no value. So says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me how to meet one of these words, Bedoro shel Moshe, maybe this was in the generation of Moshe, that it was worth 1/8 of an isar ha'italki. But here now, depends what's chashuv for people or not. Rav Dimi, when he came, Amari said, Bisimai came and he evaluated the pruta in his generation. Kamahi pruta echad mishmona b'isar ha'italki v'chein kiyat Ravi namar. Right. Well, also Ravi came from Eretz Bavel. He said, right, in the name of the side of Yanai Rabbi Shia Shiaru Kama v'pruta echad mishisha b'isar ha'italki 1/6, and if not, it's not going to be Mekudeshet. So therefore it comes out, right? Okay, the Gemara is going to say why exactly did they give a different shiur instead of 1/8, it became 1/6. But basically, you're seeing from here that it's not just stam, the lowest denomination that you could use. So Elmaleh of Yosef says of Yosef, you're right. Yach, if so, Hainu de Tanina, that's what we learned in a bright and Torah Konim. How many prutot are in 2 slaim? He says, Yuter me alpaim, more than alpaim prutot. And when you take a sela, right, there's more than 2,000, right, in the 2 slaim, right? Because again, it's like 1 to 1,000, meaning that we do nowadays 1 to 100, meaning $1 is 100 pennies, 100 cents. You understand? But they were doing 1,000. So he says, Hashta alpaim lo havya yetem alpaim karolim. So he says, Samir, you see that there's no 2 slaim, even in the alpaim prutot kaele. So I'm not going to come and I'm going to say that there's going to be more than 2,000, which means that for sure that the Braita, when it's talking about prutot, we're talking about the erech, the value of not less than the 1/8 of an isar. So Amalehu Saba. So says this Saba, Ana Taninala, right? We actually came and we're actually learning Karov Lalpaim. What does that mean now, Karov Lalpaim? We come and we say when we use the terminology Karov Lalpaim, it means that it's going to be close to 2,000 and not more than Alpaim, and not more than 2,000. Okay? So says the Gemara, Sof Alpha v'chamesh me'at Latin v'shita. He comes and he says, right? He says one second, but it's not going to be more than, right? He comes and he says, it's not going to be more than Alpha. Alpha is 1,000 v'chamesh me'at and chamesh me'at 500. Utlatin, Tlatin is 30. Right? V'shita. How much shita? Sheet. 6. Shesh. Yeah? So he comes and he says, 1,536 prutot. Yeah? So he says, Hudahabian, that's going to be the 2 slaim. So he comes and he says, Kivat nafka lehumi palga. He comes and he says once, right? He comes and he says, since it's going to come out from the half, which means since mispara prutot to the second 1,000 is going to be more because you already have 36 more than the half. So therefore, karov lalpaim karile is already called 2,000. Basically, this is called what we say in modern math. We round up, but we're not rounding up to the nearest 10 because 36 rounding up to the nearest 10 is 40, and we're not rounding up to the nearest 100th because we're rounding up to the nearest 100th. So then it would become 1,600. But rather we're nearing up to the closest 1,000. So 1,536 is closer to 2,000 than closer to 1,000. Okay, I just tell you math. Yeah, you understand? Now you're going to pass the test. So says the Gemara, right? Gufa. Let's see exactly what are we talking about. Kiata Ravdimi, when Ravdimi came, he said, "Shere b'samay b'doro kamahi pruta." Echam mishmona b'yisrael tikah. Says 1/8 of Yisrael tikah. The Chiata Ravin, and when Ravin came, he said, "Shiru b'dusay Rabbi Yonai v'Rabbi Yushaya kamahi pruta." Echamisha b'Yisrael tikah. 1/6 of Yisrael italki. So Elmaleh Abaye Ravdimi says Abaye to Ravdimi, Nema at v'Ravin. Why don't we just say that which you just said, which is going to be 1/8 of an italki, and Rava that he says that it's 1/6. Plukta dani tanai kami palaktu. Maybe bemet is a machlok tanaim. Tetanya we learned in a Braita. Listen carefully. Pruta shamru chachamim. How much is the pruta? Echam yishmona b'yisar tilki. 1/8 of an yisar tilki. 6 ma'ot kesef dinar, which is basically 6 ma'ah of kesef dinar. Ma'ah is shne pundion. A pundion is 2 isarim. An isar is 2 musmesim. A mismes is 2 kontrokin. A kuntrank is 2 prutot. So it comes out that a pruta is 1/8 of an isar ayitalki.
So from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, from the top to the bottom. You understood? You're going, okay? So that's the way that you do it. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer, which Shimon Gamliel says, Shlosha adrisin lemah. You got 3 adrisin for ma'ah. Shne hensin ladris. 2 shminim for hints. 2 prutot for a shamin. So it comes out that a pruta is 1/6 of italki. So lema demor ketanakama. Why don't we just say that the Rav is like going like the Tanakama that it's going to be 1/8, and Ravin is saying like Rashbag that it's going to be 1/6. Some people were sleeping, so I'll just go back for them. So it says over here that since we said whether it's according to Ravin or according to right, of Dimi. He says we're going according to the Tanakama. There's not a question. It all depends whether the Isad went up in value or went down in value, because if it's the same currency or not the same currency. So therefore, since the Isad was not the same currency as everything else, so he says if the Isad went up in value, so therefore it's going to be 1/8. If it went down, it's going to be 1/6. Why? Because if it's going to go up in value, it's going to come 24 zuz in 1 dinar, and if it's going to go down in value, it's going to be 36 zuz in per dinar, and therefore he's coming and he's saying, right, that basically that's the 1/8 and the 1/6. And Shmuel says that if right now she was mekadesh with a tamara with a date, even if the entire kur, remember that a kur is 30 seah and a mikveh is 40 seah. So even if one entire big barrel, huge barrel of dates costs 1 dinar, which means that obviously every single date is basically worthless, right? Because you've got tons of dates over here, still mekudeshet, because we're going to suspect that maybe it's going to be shaveh pruta in madai. So the Gemara asks, 1 second, but Bet Hillel said pruta v'shaveh pruta. Answers the Gemara, it's not a question. One is kiddush vadai, kiddush safek. If you give a pruta and a shaveh pruta, it's kiddush vadai. If you give less than that, it's going to be considered kiddush safek. Says the Gemara, Hau gavra da akdish bezavda de urde. There was a story of a person that he was mekadesh a woman with a chavilav mochin, right, which is basically like a pile of tzemek gefen, of like, like cotton wool, or like those cotton balls. So imagine you buy one from the store, you give her a cotton wool package or whatever it is that she could take off her makeup or remove different things, right? That's so that she could have. Yeah. So he comes and he says like this: Yativ Rav Shimi was sitting, not sleeping. Yativ Rav Shimi barchia kamederav. So he was in front of Rav. The kameayemba, he was looking at it. It ba shaveh pruta in ilolo. So he wanted to check: does it have shaveh pruta or doesn't have shaveh pruta? If it has shaveh pruta, she's married. Doesn't have shaveh pruta, it's not married. So he says, La kashya, it's not a question. Ha bekiddush vadai. Sorry, v'ile b'shaveh pruta lo. He says, 1 second. But if it's not shaveh pruta, it's still going to be married. I thought we said they were suspecting. So he says, La kashya. Ha bekiddush vadai b'shaveh suspect. The same thing. If it's for sure kiddush, meaning if it's for sure shaveh pruta, it's kiddushim vadai. If it's not shaveh pruta, it's kiddushin safek. Okay? Hau gavra, it was a person. The akdish be'avna de kuchla, that he was mekadesh a woman with a piece of marble, which was like a bluish marble. Right? And then somebody else came and he gave her a pruta to get married to her.
Who gets it first?
Yativ Rav Chasta ve'kamesha'ele, iit be'shaveh pruta in ilolo. So he took the marble and he started evaluating. Does it have shaveh pruta? He's married. She's married to the first one. If not, no. So says the Gemara, I thought you said that you're going to suspect. So Rav Chasta lo saver le Shmuel. He doesn't hold a Shmuel, which means he argues on Shmuel. He says that it's not shaveh pruta. Yeah, it's nothing, and we're not even going to suspect that it's shaveh pruta somewhere else. And therefore, meaning I'm not going to start saying, maybe in I don't know where it's shaveh. No. It's not shaveh pruta, not shaveh pruta. That's it. I don't care about anything else.
So why did he give back the marble?
The mother, right, of the first one said to Rav Chasta, 1 second. When he was mekadesh ota, right, the stone was worth a shaveh pruta. So therefore, what happened now if it went down in price? What do I care?
Exactly.
It's like you went right now and you bought a Tesla stock.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what happened was at the time when you bought it, it was shaveh pruta.
You should have bought Nvidia.
Yeah. And then what happened was, boom, it crashed. And right now it's not. Fine, but when you gave it, it was shaveh pruta. You're right. Now the value went down. Yeah. The value went down. But until now it's there. So Amalai told her, Lav kol kiminach asart la abatra. You don't have the koach to testify that the first kiddushin was a kiddushin and to prohibit her on the second one.
So what does she do?
Right? He says, why? Says Rav Chasta, the mother is not believed to prohibit her onto the second one. It's mashma that the reason why is because there was already a chazakah that she's married to the second guy.
Wow. So she can't,
because since today it's not shaveh pruta, the chazakah is that there wasn't shaveh pruta even during the time of the kiddushin. And therefore the mother cannot, meaning, if it was something that we know, that's something else. But if we don't know, and all of a sudden she comes to the bedin, says, look at this stone. They look at it. It's a lab stone. It's worthless. It's like, well, what's going on over here? Yeah? So you're looking at it, you're like, not shaveh pruta even. Right? You bought it in the dollar store. You understand? when the dollar store was still a dollar. Yeah, yeah. So you bought at the dollar store. It's worthless. It's nothing. So he comes and he says, so in such a case where you're going to do such a thing, he comes and he says, in such a case, now the fact that I see it and it's not shaveh a dollar, the mother of the guy cannot testify that it was shaveh a dollar once upon a time, meaning it was shaveh pruta once upon a time. You can't do that. Why? Because already today, since I look at it and I don't see shaveh pruta, she's a chazakah that she's married to the second guy that did give her pruta. Meaning the second guy was smarter that he gave her pruta because there's no doubts. There's no doubts. You gave her a pruta, even though you gave her the $1, but you know that it's valued $1. If you're going to give her a pen, you don't know that, and maybe today the value went down. All of a sudden there's a sales, or all of a sudden something happened and things go down in price. Right? In the good old days, things used to do that. Things would go down in price. Once upon a time, go down.
Rabbi, 8 months ago, the same Rolex was worth 30% more than it's worth today, or 20% more, whatever it is. Now the valuation of the 6
everything.
months.
6 months, everything went down.
Went down.
Yeah. So he comes and he says, right? You'd bet amubet. Lav hainu diyudit the vitu de Rabchia. Is that not the Yehudit, the wife of Rabchia, Davela Tsar Leida, that she had Tsar Leida? Yeah. Why? Because she was actually giving birth to twins. So she comes and she wanted to separate, right, from her husband. Amrale. So she told Rabchia, Amrali my mother told me, Kibel bich avuch kizutart, that my father received the kiddushin from someone else when I was ktana, right? And therefore, right, there's an isur shetishkin. So what happened was, he says, Amala, he says, Lav kol kimine dimach dasat lich ilavai. Your mother does not have the power to prohibit you unto me. Yeah? Meaning, right? Well, he said, Label Mer is always getting involved. Right? Basically, she comes and she was having Tsar Leida. So she comes and she says, which one?
Yes.
No, before she went and she had the thing, she had the problems. So she wanted to separate from her husband. So what does she come? So what does she say? She comes and she says, "Do you know that my mother told me that my father received kiddushin, right, when I was younger."
She tells her husband?
Yes. Yeah. So therefore, what happens? So therefore, ki'ilu, I'm asura to you because I'm already a married woman.
Kids are already born.
That's another question. That's already another question.
Right?
This is another question. I said, but you're right, because it's true. Because yeah. So wait 1 second. Yeah. So he says, so if it's going to be like that, so now she's prohibited to her husband. So the husband comes and he tells her, Lav kol kemina dimach dasali leved. Exactly thing. Your mother is not believed to prohibit you unto me. It doesn't work like that. Okay. And therefore, it's very, very important to know that. Okay.
She's one ed.
She's one ed, but even without that, she's not believed. Amri le Rabbanan le Rav Hasta. Says Rabbanan to Rav Hasta, Amai. Why right now? Why do you say the Kiddush Harishon, which did not have a Shaveh Pruta, is not going to be Tofes? Haika Sade, right? There's witnesses, right? Beidit in a certain place. Meaning you're right? David mentioned this before. 1 second. This is a woman, and this is the Belmer, right? This is the mother-in-law. This is one witness. Fine. So maybe you're going to say the one witness is not believed to say that it was Shaveh Pruta. But if you have witnesses that it's Shaveh Pruta, right? For example, right? Let's say right now, this, right? Let's say this is going to be Shaveh Pruta or not. Which one? Yeah. He comes and he says, if that's going to be Shaveh Pruta, and I have witnesses here that it is Shaveh Pruta, what do I care now if the value went down and now it's not Shaveh Pruta? No. I have witnesses that it was Shaveh Pruta. Right? And we're not talking about the Belmer, the mother-in-law anymore, or a woman, or one witness. I have 2 witnesses that it's Shaveh Pruta. So if I have 2 witnesses that it's Shaveh Pruta, she's a married woman. How do I come and I say, no. The first marriage, since I'm not sure if it's Shaveh Pruta or not, it's not a good marriage. She's got a chazakah then that she goes to the second husband. Why? Doesn't make sense. So says the Gemara, Hashta Mia Letzneu Kaman. They're not here. The witnesses are not here. So says the Gemara, Lavainu Chanina. He says, isn't that domeh to the case of Chanina? The Amar Rabbi Chanina says, a case where a woman comes and she says, Nishbeti v'teorani. I was taken into captivity, but I'm pure. What happens in such a case? So he says over here, there's a call that there's edim in Medinat Hayam that knows that she was taken into captivity. So therefore it says, Edeha bitzad astsan. That's what it says. That means her witnesses are on the side of the north of the world. The teaser. Are you going to say that she's going to be asur? What does that mean? Let's go back. Okay? Let's go back. If a woman right now was not married, yeah, and she comes and she says she was taken into captivity, yeah, what happens? So if she was taken into captivity and she had relations with one of the, how do you call them? With one of the
chiefs or whatever.
Whatever, with one of those guys. Yeah, with one of the magnates. Yeah, whichever.
They didn't do that.
What?
They kept
one second. If right now they did that, so what happened? She's a surah to get married to a Kohen. Because remember that a goy that goes with a woman, he makes her into a zuna that she can never get married to a Kohen. Okay, very important. Okay, she can never get married again to a Kohen. So now what happens? She comes and she says she was captured, but she says she's teora. So says the Gemara, usually she would be believed. Why? What does that mean? The mouth that made her asur, meaning who was the one that told us that she was captured? Nobody. Who was it? Her. So the same mouth that said that it was asur says that it's mutar. For example, I've got here something on the table, and it's a chazakah, it's kosher food. Comes around and it says, that came from an animal not done shchita. It's not kosher. But it says there was a ben pekua, meaning it didn't need to do shchita because it was when they did shchita to the mother, they opened up and there was a child there. So that ben pekua does not need shchita. It's called ben pekua, right? So therefore, right, the peshe asar, right, the mouth that made it asur is the same mouth that makes it mutar. But what happens now if I bring it in? If it didn't come and they say that she was taken into captivity, I don't have hapesha saro peshiti. Why? Because I have two witnesses that she went into captivity, but I don't have any witnesses that she's pure. She's just saying it herself. I don't believe her on her own. Meaning the only time that I believe her is because the migu, now I go back to the migu, she never had to say anything. She could have kept her mouth shut. Nobody would have ever known that she was taken into captivity. No, in order not to suspect that she had relations with an immoral. So that's it. So the fact that now she's going to come and she's going to say that she was taken into captivity, she's going to be believed. It was a peshasar or peshitit, but it was like amigo that she could have kept quiet. But if you have witnesses, you don't have that. So he says, what happens if there is witnesses? But there's a voice, there's a rumor that there's witnesses in Honolulu, in the northern part of the world. So he comes and he says,
because she knows that there's witnesses.
So he comes and he says, so she should become prohibited. It's not going to work. So it doesn't work because it should become prohibited. So therefore, what do you see? You see from here that the fact that she's going to be minute that she didn't do it because the edim are not here. And therefore, we're not going to prohibit her because maybe edim are going to come later on. Right now, there's no edim. Meaning, even if there's a rule, right now, are the witnesses here? There's no witnesses. So let's say the thing. Yeah, same thing. Right now. Yeah. So therefore, because of that, the same thing. Even though there's witnesses that this guy came in, this Evan was worth Shaveh Puta, they're not here now. So therefore, if they're not here, I look at it, it's not Shaveh Puta. So fine, she's married to the second guy. That's the way it works. Abaye v'Rava lo sil le'ahud Rav Chasta, but Abaye and Rava do not, they argue on the psak of Rav Chasta, and they hold that once there's a call that there's a deen, gamarno. Once there's a voice of a deen, you cannot permit it to the second husband. Why? There's witnesses. And then that's it. So imikilu b'shvuya teminavla nafshaga b'shavai mekel b'shetish. He says, are you going to be mekel? Meaning, when do the chachamim are mekel? Only by a shvuya. Because do you know what a shvuya does? A shvuya, when she's taken into captivity, she's purposely going to make herself ugly in order that nobody's going to want to be with her. Meaning, purposely, she's not going to beautify herself. She's going to make herself ugly. She doesn't want them to be with her. So she makes herself ugly. So he says that's by a shvuya. But by an eshet ish, you're going to come and say that you could come and start saying these things. Al pi rov, he says nochrim are prutzot barayot, right? They're prutzim barayot, and therefore, if she's given to their hands that they can do whatever they want, it's a problem. So therefore, he comes and he says, so they purposely used to make themselves ugly in order that nothing would happen. Okay, and therefore it's only going to be like a chumrah d'Rabbanan that we suspect that maybe Bemet she did have relations. So because of that, they're going to be mekel in such a case. Okay, fine. Ishtahar ma'yish mishpacha. There was left over from that family of in Surah, uparshu Rabbanan mina. So at the end of the day, the woman did like Rav Chasta, and she got married to the second guy, and she had children. Says the Gemara, there were people from that family in Surah, uparshu Rabbanan mina. The rabbi separated from them. Separated from them. The lav mishum. Why? Because maybe the bemet they're mamzerim. So that's why they separated from them. The lav mishum disfilele de Shmuel is not because they suspect of Shmuel that really bemet it is going to be considered a shaveh pruta somewhere else. Ela mishum, not because of that. Ela mishum disfilele kabai v'rav, rather because of the Abai v'Rava. That means the second that there was witnesses, that again there's a voice of witnesses, there's a rumor of witnesses. There's no witnesses here, but the second that there's a rumor of witnesses, come on, that's it. Why? Maybe there's witnesses. So if I come to you and I say, but there's witnesses that this used to be worth shaveh pruta.
But you said rumors. That means it may not, even the fact that there is
witnesses. The fact that there's a call, the fact that there's a call, that there's witnesses, that's already enough. That's already enough. I don't need anything else. Okay? Fine. Nekuda.
It's a machlok.
A new Gemara. Of course, it's a machlok between Abai v'Rava and who was the other one? Rav Chasta. And Rav Chasta was Mekel. And the Abai v'Rava were machmirim.
What happens?
Au gavra the akdish b'shutita the asa b'shuka. There was a person that he was mekadesh a woman with a bad of a das. So he took a das, the myrtle, what we use for adasim, right? And he got married with her. And for sure, there wasn't shaveh pruta. Shalcha Rav Acha bar Ravuna lekamed Rav Yosef. So Rav Acha bar Ravuna came and he sent the question to Rav Yosef. Ki agavna mai what's halacha in such a case? Shalach, so he came and he said, Nagdei, give him lashes. Kerav, just like Rav. Why? Because since he was mikadesh a woman in the shuk, you have to come and you have to give them lashes. Right? Why? But it's like pritzut to get married in the middle of the shuk. Meaning certain things are supposed to be done privately. It's not supposed to be done, it's in the middle of the marketplace. Right? The Yitzirita, and she needs a get also. Shmuel, like Shmuel, it was going to be considered a shaveh pruta in another place. Why? The Rav Mangid al de Mekadesh Beshuka, al de Mekadesh Bebiyah, al de Mekadesh Bela Shiduche. Rav will come and he will give lashes to somebody that got married in the shuk. Now again, we're talking about marrying in the shuk even with money, even with a shtar. Number two, somebody that gets married with biyah, even if it's in the house. But they got married with biyah, lashes. Number three, Mekadesh Belo Shiduchim. If somebody doesn't do a shidduch and they come and they start going out, lashes. That's what you do. Yeah. So he says over here, right? Gita. Or if they're going to come, they're going to mevatel a get. Meaning, if they're going to come, they're going to be mevatel the get. That means he wrote the get and all of a sudden he was annulling it. Right before it's getting to her. The same name. Or somebody that's going to be moser moda'a get. Moser moda'a is, imagine right now I come and I say, you have to give a get. What does he do? It's very, very smart. He goes to two people before and he says, I'm going to this place. You're going to force me to give a get. You guys are my witnesses that I don't want. I don't want. So therefore that's called Moser Moda ala get. Nowadays anyway, right, what we do is that we do bitul modaot. We do hatarat nedarim. So that means when you go to give a get, they do hatarat nedarim, just in case you made a neder or not made a neder to give the get. And number two, also they do bitul modaot, that just in case you went in front of two people and you told them that you don't want to do it, we're annulling that also as well in front of the bedin. And by doing that, you just got rid of that. Right? Another case, the mitzayer shlucha d'Rabbanan. If you're mitzayer ashliach betin, right, that he's called, that means he's the one that's hitting. He's the one that's giving the lashes, right? Or al dechala shamta ilavet satin yomin. Somebody that the bedin put him into nidui for 30 days, and he's akshan. Some people they're an akshan, right? Some people, they could be wrong, and for months it could be. You understand? Akshanut. Yeah. So what happens if a person's an akshan that they were put into nidui for 30 days? Lashes. right? Another one, al-khatna dedair bebechamua, on a khatan that he's living in the father-in-law's house.
What?
The khatan that he's living in the father-in-law's house. The reason why is because basically, right, the mother-in-law, she loves very much her son-in-law.
Okay.
Right? Why? Because Keilu, she wants, that the khatan should be good with her daughter, so, but maybe because of such a close intimacy, so she could fall for her son-in-law. And because of that, they would give lashes to somebody that would live in his father-in-law's house.
Okay?
The Gemara Masechet Pesachim Kuf Yud Gimel says, "Hizhiru chachamim sheyesh lo ladam lishamer et ishto mipnei chatana harishon." A person should be very, very careful because of the first chatan. He says, "Vehu adin shar chatanim." Other chatanim also as well. I mean, you have to even be more careful, right? And look also the Rambam. The Rambam brings down another reason, but this reason is actually brought down in the Gemara Pesachim. So it's a Gemara. The Gemara says you have to be very, very careful. Okay, so he says, right? The Dayid in, he says, right? Only a chatan that's living there. But if it's only Khalif, if it's only just so bad, he's being mevaker, then no. Do you know that it once happened that there was a chatan that he passed by his father-in-law's house, and Rav Shesha put him in nidui, even for passing by? Answers the Gemara, he says she was already suspected with him, and that's why he gave him the lashes. Meaning, since there was already a rumor that he's sleeping around with his mother-in-law, so that's why, right? Just the fact that he passed by the house, Rav Sheshat came. Yeah.
You know something?
He says, right? He says that that's actually what happened. Okay. Narda says, "Bekulu lo mangidrav." In all these cases, Rav did not put them into nidui. Ela al mekadesh bebiya belo shiduchei. He says, right? He says only in the case that they did not have a shiduchin, right? And still he was mekadesh bebiya, which is like mamasha pritzut. V'ikadami, some people say no, even with shiduchin, right? And there was mekadesh bebiya, it's also going to be a problem because of pritzut, which means the entire concept of getting married to a woman through biya is very, very, very looked down upon. And that's why Rav would actually, that means according to Nerdai, Rav did not give lashes to all these cases, because all these cases you had Mekadesh B'Shuk, Mekadesh B'Biyah, Mekadesh B'Lo Shiduchim, Mevatel Aget, Mosar Moda Al Aget, Metzayer Al Shluch Ad Rabbanan, somebody that has Nidui for 30 days, and a Chatan that's living in the father-in-law's house, right? Now we just went down, no. In all these cases, he wouldn't give lashes other than Mekadesh B'Biyah without Shiduchim, or some people say, no, even with Shiduchim, Mekadesh B'Biyah, and that's already enough. Okay? How Gavra, the Kaddish B'Tzipta Dasa. There was a person that he came and he got married on a Machzelet of Adasim, on a carpet of Adasim. Amrulei, they said, V'alepa Sheve Puta. This is 1 second. How do you do that with the Machzelet of Adasim? It's not Sheve Puta. Amarla, he says, Tikadush V'arba Zuz de Itba. Get married with the 4 zuz which are inside of it. Shakal V'Ishtika. So the woman took it with the zuzim and she kept quiet, which means once the woman heard his words and she didn't throw it away, she still held it quietly. So Amar Rava says, Hava shtikuta leachar matan maot. This is keeping quiet after she got the money. V'chol shtikuta de leachar matan maot lav klum. Therefore, keeping the money after, right, meaning keeping quiet after getting the money is nothing. Which means the fact that he went and she picked it up, right? She had the machzelet, but she didn't know there was money inside of it. So the fact that she took it and there's but there's no money here. Yeah, but they said, no, but inside. But when did she keep quiet? Only afterwards, but he already gave it to her. So therefore, keeping quiet afterwards does not come and constitute that she is agreeing to it. So Amar Rava says, how do we know this? Tell him we learned on Braita. Amar La, imagine he comes and he says, take the seller, watch it for me. I guarantee, pikadon. Then he says, get married to me with it. If it was at the time that he's giving it over, she's mekudeshet. But if it was after he already gave it to her, that's mekudeshet. Only if she wants it as a kiddushin. She doesn't want. Why? Because since he already gave it to her, right? So therefore, it's already too late, right? So he says, "My ratzta." What does it mean ratzta? My lo ratzta. If it's that she said, meaning Ratzah means that she says yes and she doesn't want, she says no. Mikal Dereisha, so it's mashma, and then the Dereisha, what are we talking about? He says, Ki amra lo, when she says no, Nami Avi Kiddushin. Why? She said no. If she says that she doesn't want to get married, that's it, it's not a marriage. Elalav, rather, Ratzta de amra in. Ratzta means that she says yes, okay, she agrees. Lo Ratzta, that she kept quiet. Ishtika mishtika. Why? Shema minas, we learn from here, shtika de lecha. So therefore, keeping quiet after you already get the money, lav klumu is nothing. Here we continue with Hashem.